Hello, Froggy here, and today we'll be glitching into the Mirror Dimension in the final campaign mission of Witch Queen. Of course, we'll be going from patrol. We want to start off in Miasma. We're going to be hitting the Quagmire lode to make ourselves a Quantum Skimmer. We'll be using a bit of a refinement of the technique that Rhythm found. It turns out you don't need to dismount when hitting the load. As long as you die, that's good enough. So we're heading to somewhere that we can get a turn back from the edge of the box. That jump there can be a bit tricky, but just keep at it and you'll manage to get it. So I found that the easiest way to hit the load on a skimmer here is to first move the skimmer into the load zone. If you dodge right about when the timer hits 0, it will fling the skimmer out a little bit, and that'll let you place it within the load zone. I think I might have gotten it there. Yep, looks like I got it. If you load too fast, you can always get the turn back timer almost to 4 before you get on. Now, in order to actually use that quantum, we need to load into Quagmire normally. That is, without having any sort of a long load. If you happen to die to the load, that works. But that's not too reliable, so you're going to want to make your way a bit out this way, then go back into the load. Just make sure you don't summon a vehicle. Going a bit slow can help, just because you want to give time for everything to settle. And if you load in smoothly, you should have a Quantum Skimmer. Just going to go ahead and check it. It's pretty easy to tell. If it's a quantum, you'll be able to walk right through it. And in this particular zone, if you're riding it, you will get a turn back timer, which is actually pretty inconvenient. But luckily that won't last. As soon as we take it into another zone, that should go away. Rhythm will be acting as my observer. Anytime you see that eye icon, it's from Rhythm's point of view. When you move the Quantum Skimmer, you don't move. So after each round of movement, you're going to want to go to where the skimmer is now. The more closely the observer observes the skimmer, the more likely they'll get to control where it goes to. It's always possible that you might lose it to a random blueberry, and then you get to play Quantum Hide and Seek. Not a game I recommend. We're trying to get to Florescent Canal, but I find going there directly is kind of annoying between the 4-second timer, how many blueberries will be in the area, and how heavily trafficked that load zone is. Very easy for someone to end up yoinking your skimmer through the hub. Speaking of which, we're getting close to our first hub transition. You want to make sure you don't go past the bush coming up on the left there, because that is the load zone. You're going to want to look back towards your skimmer, mostly to make sure it comes with you. And hopefully you'll still see it there after you hit the load zone. Looks like we've got it. And now we don't have to worry about those pesky turnbacks. That'll make going through Miasma and Florescent Canal a lot easier. Should be able to do it in basically one shot. I'm not super familiar with this area, so you may notice a couple wrong turns. I'd recommend not leaving it in a hub for too long, so I just got off it a bit early. Wouldn't want to have it accidentally get hub transferred by someone else. We're about ready for the next transfer. Going to want to park your skimmer about at this bend. You can always catch a ride on someone else's Sparrow to make the walk back a bit quicker. Make sure your observer goes away because you want to be the one who has ownership of the skimmer when you hit the load zone. Looking backwards is also generally a good plan. You could also ride on the skimmer as your observers go into the next zone, or to help avoid blueberries. And looks like we have another successful hub transfer. Two more to go, but one more that's in public. Ah, my eyes have arrived. Florescent Canal works much like the zones we've gone through already, although it's a bit more possible to fall off the map here. In case of a quantum accident, you'll want your observer to leave and come back. That will reset your skimmer's location. Make sure you park outside of the building because you don't want to get it inside of the hub just yet. This hub is a little strange in that it's very small. I'd say you probably have about maybe 30 feet to work with, probably a bit less. Want to pull up to a bit before the larger red collection of flowers, and have your observer stand right behind you to make sure the skimmer doesn't slide down too far. And hopefully that'll work. It's too risky to get back on it, so you definitely want to have your observer go away. And let's see. Yep, still got it. Now for the fun part. I've been wanting to do this route for a long time. I had worked it out for regular Quantum Sparrow, but I never managed to get a Sparrow up top before they did the patch. Skimmers make that part easy though. Before I had been trying to do the crazy crash two Sparrows together and have them hover tech, but with a Quantum Skimmer you can just jump up and keep jumping. If you jump too high, your observer will cut out, so don't do that. I also overshot it here. You can use your side dodges to do a bit of steering. You can also rotate the direction you're facing to make the side dodges go in different directions. Anywhere up top will work, but right where I stopped is where you really want to go. Once you observe that the observer has observed the skimmer, you can head on up and find it for yourself. Getting up top isn't too difficult. You don't need to Navigator fly to get up there. I'll be showing you the long way, but if you've got Navigator, you might as well use it. The way I'll show you will use one grapple, though you can substitute in some stasis if you'd rather do that. It'll just make it a little bit harder. It's been a little bit since I've done this route, but we're basically just climbing up to the top any old which way. You can go out of map here, but I didn't really see that helping too much. And we've made it to the hole. The regular hole, not like a map hole. Need to get a little bit of height to get up with one grapple. But there's some nice little bit of geometry you can stand on up here. I will be using Navigator just to not lose my grapple point. But as you can see, it was just a single grapple, so definitely didn't need to do that. And now we can just walk on out to where the skimmer is. Assuming I remember which turn to make. What a lovely hallway. And should be coming up to it in just a moment here. So it is important that you park within the hub. This is a bit too far forwards. But this is just right. Once again, you don't need to use Navigator to get up here. I'll put a link in the description to a video showing you how you would do this with stasis. The skimmer should be hubbed over now. And of course, Rhythm has brought a Sparrow because he's a mad lad. Now we need to go back down to where our vehicle is. You can drop down the side here and avoid the death barrier to the left that Rhythm has so helpfully pointed out. And a bit further down, you'll be able to go forwards. That flat area is also solid, so you can land there. Don't approach your skimmer though, because if you do that, you'll hit the load and undo everything we just did. You'll want to look away so the observer can move the skimmer into position. As the observer, make sure you're low light and use the method of your choice to push the skimmer out from a distance. Mountaintop will work, although personally I think stasis works the best. Once it's a bit out of the circle, you should be good. Make sure to give it a rest if it's smoking too much. If it's upside down, you'll need to flip it over because only the observer can flip the skimmer. And now we're on to the next bit. We've got a sync coming up, so be prepared. Just need to move it into position first. You want it as close to this edge as possible because you need to have line of sight to where we're going. Keep in mind that, once again, if you mess up here, the observer can just go back into the previous load, and as long as you remain on the skimmer, it will reset its location. Nope, now that we've got it in position, just have to go down there. Our target is way out on that white strip. It's a bit of a challenging target, but luckily we have unlimited tries. I would recommend having a sniper out, a good sniper, one with high zoom, the highest in fact. Good old Bakken. And go ahead and boost out and do some jumps to slow your descent. You want to land on the white strip. You do have your left and right dodges to kind of maneuver, but it's a bit tricky. Almost got it. While you do have infinite tries to do this, you aren't so lucky on the sync itself, so if this is your first quantum sync, it really shouldn't be. I would practice this somewhere until you can get the timing down. If things go too far south with this, remember you can always just have the observer leave and rejoin. But do change characters when you leave. Don't want to accidentally pull to orbit if you happen to be the leader. Almost got it. Ah, there we go. Just backing up in case that somehow blocks line of sight. And now for the tricky part. You want the observer to look away, and then you can safely get off your skimmer. You'll want to make sure that you have good line of sight, and then get back on the skimmer as the observer turns and zooms on the skimmer. And if that goes smoothly, you should teleport right on it. I would definitely recommend communicating over Discord for this, because it can be a bit tricky, but at least you can wait as long as you want before trying it, unlike with, say, syncbox. This upcoming step is kind of optional, although I would recommend doing it because it will make things a bit easier. Plus, it's something you'll have to do if you want to get 3 people down there. So we're going to set up an IRB to have the observer join. If you don't set any spawn points down here, you're able to just respawn back up top. So I'm going to use an explosive here, which I helpfully forgot to swap to beforehand. And as long as you die on a far enough bit of that white spiky stuff, you should be able to IRB your ghost out. We're going to be flying up on the outside of this time. Might be able to do this with stasis, but it is definitely easier if you can Navigator fly. The wall up here is intangible, so you can pass right through it and head up to the back of the load zone. I haven't bothered finding a consistent point here because honestly it's more likely that you'll die than survive unless you are specifically doing something to try to survive this load. And if you don't die to the load, you can just retry. So, now we've got Rhythm. Rhythm is acting as a guinea pig here. He's gonna jump down and make sure there isn't a death barrier or anything that would make the skimmer unobtainable. It would be quite unfortunate to say, park the skimmer in box pull and have to do this whole thing over again. And now it's time for me to join. It would probably be a good idea to do some jumping to slow your fall so you don't bounce too far. You can barely notice that I'm falling from Rhythm's point of view. Luckily, the dome that houses this mirror dimension is huge, so you'd have to try pretty hard to miss it. Since Rhythm is down here, it is a lot easier to drive the skimmer forwards. And that will be quite helpful because we're about to do a quantum floor breach. And the flatter the ground is, the easier that will be to pull off. The surface of this dome is very thin, which is also pretty helpful for that. Once again, I would recommend having the observer stand behind the skimmer, just to make sure it doesn't slide down or something. Speaking of which, time to slide down. You don't actually need the observer anymore. But if you want to have the whole fire team out of box, you'll need to do an IRB to get inside of the mirror dimension. For that, you'll need 2 other people to perform a syncbox so that they can get to the same sort of area in a different zone. More on that later. For now, it's floor breaching time. I'm going to be using Arc and Ballistic Slam, although Grapple will work for this as well. If you're on Titan, Heart of Inmost Light can help you get your abilities back pretty quickly, which you may need. If you're doing the Ballistic Slam approach, you need to be running in order to activate the ability. And you'll want to have the Ride Skimmer prompt available so that you can start riding as you go down. Possible to miss quite a lot, so Inmost Light will definitely save you some time. It might be easier to do this with a grapple grenade, but I'm more used to doing it with Arc. If you manage to get in this funky pose, you need to make sure you get off in the right direction, so pay attention to what it looks like when you normally ride a skimmer. I think I got off in the wrong way there. I find it's most consistent to just hit a normal jump and then start your ride and slam. I think I need to get off on the right side here. Oh, and don't forget to swap back to Lion Rampant for sword flying. That was a close one. Though I suppose if you die here, you'll just spawn back up with the skimmer, so no real harm. See what we can see before heading into the box barrier down there. I think there's a pyramid ship somewhere in the background. See if I can spot it. Oh! Alright. Yeah, let's see if it is solid. And it isn't. It's also fairly small for a pyramid ship. Kind of play some visual tricks to make it look large. Oh, and that's the box barrier right there. Might as well use my super for the landing. And we've made it. It's nice to be here without the pressure of the boss encounter going on. You can just enjoy the ambiance. Let's get back to Strand, since that'll be a bit more useful now. Yeah, definitely wouldn't have time to do this nonsense while trying to do that boss encounter. Yeah, looks like I'm gonna need to get my grapple before going up there. So Rhythm has syncboxed out. So let's see if we can get him here too. If you're on a Sparrow, the easiest way to die in midair is to kind of stop your rotation when you're sideways, and you'll fall off, and then you can just shoot down with an explosive to die. You'll need to get back inside the box without dying again, and then do the IRB from before. And now we've got a Rhythm. If you take turns with the sync box, you can get everyone out here. Now let's get on top of that Traveler. Oh, almost fell off there. But we've got a pretty nice view up here. Before we head back to the little islands, let's regen some ammo. Want to set your max ammo low while you're alive. Then, after you die, raise it back up. Falling Guillotine has pretty much the best ammo ratio you'll get there. As you see, I went from 43 to 55, and with this next one, since I can lower my max to 55, I'll go all the way up to 70. Not a bad deal. Not that I'm likely to use all of this ammo, but the earlier you regen ammo, the quicker it'll go. Let's just forget about that. Get a little bit more height starting out here. And that should do nicely. These pillars really aren't that far, even though kind of looks like they would be. Let's see how high up we can get. Not very. It seems we run into the top of the box pretty quickly there. Just one more. No, yeah, we can't even get up that lower section of roof. Wonder if they're all like that. I think they're roughly symmetrical. Got the lower bit of land there. And wait, what? What was that? It's like some sort of leftover strand marker? What? I might as well check for solid terrain down there. Not looking too promising. And I've got a Gordian knot. Probably nothing up there anyway, so let's just head back to the middle. Would be cool if that stuff was solid, but it would almost certainly be in kill barrier. And we're back up top. So, for a long time, we were trying to find a funnel into this area, but we were never able to get there, and wouldn't have really helped given that there is the giant dome around everything. But turns out the funnel is right above this traveler ball. Let me just demonstrate up the side here that I can't go up. But if I go back above the traveler ball and do the same thing, you'll see that I go up without any resistance. It isn't quite straight up though. Kind of goes off to the side. You might, yeah, you can see there I didn't go straight at my grapple point because I was being pushed by the funnel wall. So we have to go up at a bit of an angle. Of course, this isn't really likely to get us anywhere because the dome is almost certainly solid everywhere. But sure would be nice. It's kind of like the other mirror dimension. There's a funnel going all the way up into the map, but just a thin wall prevents you from actually going there. Quite a view from up here. Well, not too much further to go till we get to the top. Ah, there we got the transition to green. Ah! And there we have the ceiling. That is just gorgeous looking. Well, nowhere left to go but down. Luckily for us, fall damage can no longer kill you, so this should be pretty safe. As long as we don't hit an angle. Well, hopefully you enjoy coming out this way. I definitely did.